I never thought my past would catch up to me in such a cruel and final way. If you had asked me not long ago what my life would look like, I would have told you I'd be planning a family, settling into married life with Jason, waking up beside him every morning knowing I was loved and safe. I would have told you I had finally found the stability and happiness that for so many years had felt out of reach. But that dream has collapsed. All of it. My future, my security, my belief that love could overcome mistakes. And all because of one secret that I thought I had buried deeply enough to never resurface. A single number, a body count, a lie that became the undoing of everything. When I met Jason, I didn't feel like the kind of woman a man like him would choose. He was confident without arrogance, steady without being boring, thoughtful in ways that seemed rare. The night we met at a friend's birthday party, he wasn't loud or showy like the other guys. He wasn't the center of attention. He was sitting off to the side, laughing at a story someone was telling. And when my eyes landed on him, something inside me just wanted to know him. He wasn't my type at all. My type had always been the charismatic bad boys, the ones who played hard to get, the ones who left you wondering if you were enough. Jason wasn't like that. He looked at me like I was already enough before I said a single word. We struck up a conversation, and what struck me most was how genuinely interested he seemed in my answers. He asked me about my work, my family, the things I like to do. He didn't try to turn it into something flirtatious or physical right away. He was patient, letting the conversation stretch naturally until hours had passed. By the end of the night, I felt like I had known him longer than just a few hours. When he asked for my number, I didn't hesitate. Dating him was different. He texted when he said he would. He showed up on time. He remembered little details I had mentioned weeks earlier. After so many years of dealing with men who made me feel disposable, Jason made me feel like I mattered. For the first time, I began to imagine that maybe I could be more than the person I had been in my 20s, drifting from one hookup to another, convincing myself that attention was love, that validation was happiness. But even as I fell deeper into him, a quiet panic always lived inside me. I had a past that didn't align with the kind of woman I knew Jason wanted. In college and the years that followed, I made choices I can't take back. Choices that stacked up into a body count much higher than most men would accept. I told myself at the time that it didn't matter, that everyone was doing the same thing, that it was just fun. But when I met Jason, I knew those choices would one day become my downfall if I ever had to reveal them. We had been dating for a few months when the conversation about body count came up. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't accusatory. We were just talking over dinner, and Jason mentioned offhand that he had only been with 3 women before me. He said it in that calm, proud way of someone who had nothing to hide. And then he asked me. I can still remember the way my chest tightened, how my palms began to sweat, how desperately I wished I could shrink myself down to nothing so I wouldn't have to answer. My mind spun. I knew the real number would disgust him. I knew if I told him the truth, he might walk away before I ever had the chance to prove that I was more than my past. So I lied. I smiled, I sipped my wine, and I said, "Same here." 3, when the real number was 27. From that moment forward, everything I built with him was built on a lie. And though I shoved that thought down and told myself it would never matter, it haunted me in quiet ways. Every time he told me how much he admired me for being different from other women, for being pure, for being the kind of woman he could proudly bring home to his family, I felt like a fraud. I would smile and say thank you while inside. Shame burned me alive. And yet the relationship blossomed. Jason treated me better than anyone ever had. He showed me what commitment looked like. He met my parents, I met his. We started traveling together, cooking dinners at home, daydreaming about the future. For the first time, I didn't feel like love was temporary. I didn't feel like I had to fight for scraps of affection. He gave freely, and I gave back. A year and a half into our relationship, he proposed during a weekend trip to the mountains. The air was crisp, the leaves were turning, and we had hiked to a lookout point overlooking a valley of gold and red trees. He dropped to one knee, pulled out a ring, and told me I was his forever. I said yes with tears streaming down my face. It was the happiest moment of my life. I convinced myself in that moment that the past no longer mattered, that love had washed it away, that what I had done before didn't define who I was now. But lies rot from the inside. They don't disappear just because you want them to. And mine didn't stay buried. 6 weeks before the wedding, we went to a barbecue at Jason's friend Mark's house. Mark had known me back in college, though not well. He was a couple of years older, and our paths had crossed at parties. I didn't think much of it until he made an offhand remark that changed everything. He was joking around with Jason when he said, "Man, I'm surprised you don't know more about her wild side. She was kind of a legend back in the day." Jason laughed at first, but then he looked at me. He caught the way my face froze, the way my smile faltered, the way I couldn't find words to brush it off. He didn't say anything right then, but later that night when we were alone, he turned to me with a seriousness I had rarely seen in his eyes. "What did Mark mean?" he asked. His voice wasn't angry yet, just tight, suspicious. I tried to laugh. I tried to deflect. But he pressed again. "Sarah, how many guys have you actually been with?" My heart raced so hard it hurt. I thought about lying again, but I saw in his eyes that he already knew. He already suspected the truth was far from what I had told him. And in that moment, I broke. I confessed. I told him the real number. 27. The silence that followed was suffocating. He stared at me like he didn't even know me anymore. His face shifted from shock to anger to disgust, all in a matter of seconds. He asked why I had lied. He asked how I could let him believe for years that I was someone I wasn't. He asked how I could build an entire future with him on a lie. I tried to explain. I told him I wasn't that girl anymore, that I had grown, that I had made mistakes but had changed. I told him I didn't want my past to define me. I begged him to see me as the woman I was with him, not the woman I had been before. But he couldn't. He kept shaking his head. "You built our relationship on a lie," he said finally. "You took away my choice. If you had told me the truth in the beginning, maybe I could have processed it. Maybe I could have decided if I was okay with it. But you didn't give me that chance. You lied." Those words destroyed me because I knew he was right. In the weeks that followed, Jason pulled further and further away. He said he needed space, but space quickly turned into absence. He slept at a friend's house more often than our apartment. He avoided talking about the wedding. He stopped touching me, stopped kissing me, stopped looking at me the way he used to. I fought for us. I tried to make him remember why he loved me, but nothing I said mattered. To him, I was tainted, a fraud, someone who had tricked him into loving me. 2 weeks before the wedding, he called it off. Just like that. The future I had built in my mind vanished in a single conversation. The aftermath was humiliating. We had to contact everyone and explain that the wedding was canceled. My parents were heartbroken. His parents were furious. Friends whispered behind my back, speculating on what had happened. I wanted to disappear, to crawl out of my own skin, to undo time. Jason moved out, taking only what he needed. He refused to engage beyond the logistics of dividing our things. The warmth that had once filled our home was gone, replaced by cold silence and bitter stares. And then, as if the universe wanted to punish me further, I saw on social media just months later that he was dating someone new. She was exactly the kind of woman he always said he admired. Wholesome, conservative, untouched by the chaos of hookup culture. They posted pictures traveling, smiling, looking like the perfect couple. Meanwhile, I was unraveling. Nights became endless loops of regret. I would stare at the wedding dress still hanging in my closet, mocking me, reminding me of the future I had lost. Days were hollow, filled with the ache of what could have been. Every time I saw Jason's new life online, it felt like someone driving a knife deeper into my chest. He was happy, he was thriving, and I was alone, suffocating in guilt and shame. I tried to date again, but I couldn't. Every man I met, I wondered when the question would come up again. Every time I imagined going through the same cycle of lying, confessing, losing. I couldn't bear it. I felt broken, like damaged goods, like no one would ever see me as worthy of love again. I've had endless nights to reflect, to ask myself what went wrong. And while part of me still feels angry that Jason couldn't love me despite my past, I know the truth. It wasn't just the number, it was the dishonesty. I robbed him of his choice by lying. I built our foundation on sand, and when the tide of truth came in, everything washed away. Now, at 29, I'm starting over from nothing. No fiancé, no wedding, no stability. Just a mountain of regret that I carry every single day. I watch Jason move on, thriving without me. And I wonder if I'll ever escape the shadow of my own mistakes. Or if this will always be my story. The woman who lied, who lost everything, and who has only herself to blame.